Hello, everyone. My name is Macy Satantio. I am the founder of a nonprofit in San Francisco Bay Area called Autism Career Pathways. We just recently launched a new project, Autistically Wired, which is a video interview series created by autistic people for other autistic people, hopefully, the young generation of autistic people. So, our dream through this project, we hope that autistic teens and young adults will be able to find us, autistic adults, as role models. Today, on the Autistically Wired episode, we are speaking with Ralphie-Ray, also known online as at Ralphie underscore the underscore American underscore kid. So you can find them there. Ralphie-Ray is a Mexican autistic adult college student and worker who has balanced multiple jobs while paying for school and living independently. His story reflects the influence of culture, family work ethic, and the realities of navigating adulthood as an autistic person. In this conversation, we'll talk about many things such as identity, work, school experiences, advocacy, burnout, cultural expectations, and what it means to build a life that honors both your roots and your neurodivergent way of being. So, welcome, Ralphie. Thank you for joining me. So, let's give you some time to introduce yourself, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Macy. Thanks for having me. To those watching, my name is Raimundo Scavarello Yorazar Jr. I go by the nickname of Ralphie, and before college, I was called Ray. Up until college, that's when I started being called Ralph. I grew up in Pennsylvania, the United States of America. I attended Bucks County Community College for 2 years, then Temple. The pandemic hit. Then I took 2 years off. Now I'm back at Bucks County Community College, hoping to go back to Temple. The highest amount of classes I ever taken at community college was five, while also balancing three jobs. That's just where we are in this economy. I currently work at Rally House, Target, and Sportsman's Warehouse. I People find it brilliant about how is it that I'm able to balance all this. It's just the mind over matter. It's just like a whole mind thing. It's not exactly what I call a flex, but you gotta do what you gotta do in these times. I'm also gay. I identify as a gay man. I'm I'm also a Chevy trucker. I love my trucks too. I take pride in both American and Mexican roots. On top of that, I didn't start speaking Spanish till I was 15, but now, with everything going on and also tapping into my roots, tapping into my culture, understanding what my ancestors went through, my drive for Mexican and Spanish is basically through the roof at the moment. I used to be really, really scared about speaking Spanish because, especially being Hispanic and Mexican, it's a little bit disabilities are not taken as more into consideration, but like slowly, slowly, day by day, that is changing. So it's a lot. We come a long way, but we still have a long way to go, as I would say so myself. I am a brother, a friend. I'm a big brother as well. And I'm just really glad to be here as well.
Thank you. I also asked Ralphie earlier if he could do an introduction in Spanish as best as he can. So go ahead.
I'm going to try my very best. Bienvenidos a todos. Mi nombre es Raimundo Cabral Jr. Me llaman Ralphie, pero antes que yo entré a la universidad me llamó Ray, pero ya me llamo Ray y Ralph. Yo soy una persona que es gay. Um, I've- Estoy practicando mi español. No está perfecto, pero sí sirve. Se llama Spanglish. Yo no estaba hablando más español antes que yo tenía 15 años. Cuando yo tenía When I was diagnosed with autism, the doctor told my parents to only speak English at the home to get me on routine. So a veces, cuando los años estaban pasando, a veces me olvidé español, pero ya sabes los beneficios a hablar español y inglés también. Ah, yo, am, yo vivo en Pennsylvania, en los United States. Yo entré en la universidad que se llama Bucks County Community College y cuando yo terminé mis 2 años, yo fui a Temple, pero la pandemia del coronavirus pasó, eso yo toqué 2 años y ya soy 28 años, todavía estoy en universidad, pero he hecho los ganas, como ellos dicen, he hecho los ganas y que nada para, I don't want to get done. Yo hablo, todavía, todavía estoy creciendo, pero aquí estoy. Y uh, I'm sorry.
No,
Pero,
that's okay. Take your time.
voy a ustedes en mi vida como yo estaba aquí y como mi autismo y la haciendo hispano me afecta mi vida. I'm so sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. But you
Yeah,
know
so
what? That
so
that's
like
look
so
sounds great. Yeah.
so it's great, but like what one of the things too that at least one of my so-called burnouts is trying to so I went to a conference of immigration last year and
Mm,
I tried my brain is trying to figure out what this means, how to say it, what order it's saying,
mhm.
and how what it means from English to Spanish. So like there's a lot of little squirrels going up in
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah. So
no.
like so I
That
have
was
to like
great.
really think about it. I have to really
Yeah,
think
no,
about it.
I trust
Mhm.
me. I understand because that's my Mandarin is like much worse than your Spanish. So that sounded really good. And I'm sure people can piece it together and they
Mhm,
can,
mhm,
yeah, yeah,
mhm.
exactly, exactly. So, okay. So now we start with the questions. So let's talk about your autistic identity and background.
Yeah.
When were you diagnosed? Uh, let's start with that.
Mhm.
When were you diagnosed? I know we could just do it in English.
Yeah. Okay. So I was diagnosed with it was at the time it was Asperger's. I was 6 years old,
Mm,
2003. I me diagnosed con autismo en 2003 cuando yo era 6 años. So my mom and dad were able to speak English long before having me, and I know not everyone has that advantage. So when we came to the States, and when I was when the doctor diagnosed me, when the doctors were trying to kind of like evaluate me, the doctor specifically told my mom to only speak English at home, which wasn't a problem. I never once had to translate, none of that. So that was an easy go, and we paid for the all like the exams, the tests out of pocket. So we got lucky. Bucks County, Pennsylvania is the second richest county in Pennsylvania. So that's maybe one little advantage too. I know not everyone has that. Um, so I was diagnosed with autism. It was Asperger's at the time. Now it's just autism. Um, but at the time, the doctors were saying, the teacher. So I went to Catholic school. Actually, I started Catholic
mhm,
school. They were not the nicest bunch. They were not nice, and these
right.
were people. And they basically told my mom that I'm one of those kids. That there's something wrong with me. Um, After I was diagnosed, I went to Catholic school. But I got the yelling. I got the yelling. What is wrong with you? Why aren't you doing this? You don't know how to say your name. This is ridiculous. Getting yelled at in my face. Oh yeah, and
Yeah,
that was a little
I
bit of my journey.
understand.
Hmm.
So I think you don't have to switch to Spanish for each question. It's okay. Maybe just certain questions that you and I feel like it's
Hmm.
important enough. Like all the questions are important, but we have to pick and choose for just to manage the time. So
Yeah.
let's
Hmm.
go on to the next question. So you describe yourself as Mexican, autistic, neurodivergent, and part of the LGBT community.
Hmm.
How are these identities shape who you are and how you move through work, school, and life?
Hmm. So, gay, autistic, Mexican, brown, gay. On top of that, ADHD and OCD. I have all three actually. They shape my life because of the kind of things that I kind of encounter. Like as a gay man, I had to be true about who I love and who I want to be with the rest of my life. As an autistic man, however, so this might be a controversy. I do support functioning labels. There is that controversy about high functioning, low functioning, yada yada. I support it because it helps to put people. It helps people to know what level I am on. Um, I guess what I would say is that all of these help me find my place in the world. That's how I would know. As a gay man, obviously, like even me, like I don't belong in all gay spaces. I've bumped into a few issues with the LGBT just because I am this way, because, yada yada. As an autistic man, I bumped into my issues too because they weren't exactly like me. Like I was the kid that loved getting into trouble. I was the kid that wanted to be outside, uh, you know, and everyone else just wanted to do their own thing, stay inside, and that's great. But like me, I was a wild child. I wanted to be all over the place. As a Mexican, that is my roots, that is my culture, that is my background. To be, to I'm very proud of the story of my ancestors, but to not forget about and I have forgotten it for a while. For a little bit, I rejected it, but that would be a slap in the face to them. I think one of the very things that really to know that I was, if anything, me culturally different, Mexican brown, is what made me realize that there is things that are different about me that was considered bizarre in my culture. No disrespect, but that's how it was. Um, so I
Can you
think it's
give an
a
example of?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I just want to let you know that I did bump into a little bit of racism within my own people. I just want to let you know that. Okay, we could edit, try to figure that out. So, as a Mexican little kid, 6, 7, 8 years old, people are asking my mom, "¿Qué pasa con él? ¿Por qué está así? ¿Qué le pasa? ¿Está loco?" I hate that with a burning passion. When people say the word loco, I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. I hate that because that is demeaning and that is downgrading me. Growing up in special education was good when I was a kid. I'll give it that, but it's not what it is now. When I entered special education, I was the only brown, Hispanic, Latino. Everyone else was Caucasian, white American, and there's nothing wrong with that. But also, as I got older, as a 28-year-old man, but even in high school, I got all of the kind of questions too. Safe foods, that was a big thing too. I would be going to Mexican parties or Mexican gatherings, yada yada. I'm the only kid either not having anything or I have like a frozen pizza along with a Capri Sun and an ice cream sandwich. I was called Güero. I was called Coconut. I was called Gringo. I was called this and that. I'm like, I'm just me. My mom, she let me be my own person. And that's one of the things I love about my mom. She let me just, let me grow, see the United States, see what happens. My dad was more on the culture side. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that's one of the reasons why there was a different of dynamic between the two, but also with me and my own people, because I grew up, they got to do their own thing, be their own, listen to their own music. None of that. Me, I wanted to see all over. I grew up with Green Day, All American Rejects, Linkin Park, Transformers, SpongeBob, Jesse McCartney, Spider Man. Those were my song. My one of my all time favorite movies is Atlantis: The Lost Empire, The Emperor's New Groove. I watched TV shows like Robot Chicken when I wasn't supposed to. But culturally different, I've been hit more by racism from other Hispanics, other brown people than white people because of the way I am too. Like I've been told that I have a white boy haircut just because of my hair, and I'm like, what is that? I've been told to. I'm like, what are these things? Um, so as an autistic man, it was a little bit when I was a kid, my parents and me, we stayed home because I was always crying because of sensory overload and I couldn't communicate that at the time. So now, culturally different, even then now, I still get told like, ¿estás seguro que tú tienes autismo? ¿Estás seguro que no es en tu cabeza? And that's one of the things I don't like about actually no, let me rephrase that. That's one of the things that I just hate that people don't do the research because I think now there's more awareness of autism, but it's still very, very little by little. Like I again, say foods, chicken nuggets, pizza, burgers, I get so cute, but I get questions like, ¿por qué no comes tamales? ¿Por qué no comes arroz? ¿Por qué no comes los frijoles? ¿Por qué no comes esto? Why don't you eat this? I'm like, just leave me alone, please. And
Yeah, no,
yeah, and on top of that, the Spanish. The Spanish was
yeah.
a huge one because it would be like family gatherings or parties. My mom, I don't, I don't. She always hated when people would do this to me, like ask me to say something in Spanish, yada yada, and then I would get made fun of, or I would get criticized, and this would be in public in front of a bunch of people. Me and my family used to own a Mexican shop in Pennsylvania, but when people hear me speak English, they don't ask me, but they ask my mom why I don't speak Spanish. I'm like, leave me alone. And this was consistent, consistent, consistent in public, in front of a bunch of people. And the worst part is strangers asking me or asking my mom, like, that's none of your business. Okay. And then they're
Right.
criticizing my mom, like, why didn't you teach him this? I'm like, leave us alone. Leave my mom
Yeah.
alone.
No,
And
I can totally relate being an Asian person and
Mhm.
Asian parent,
Yeah.
and with specific eaters in my family as well. So I'm
Hmm.
so glad that your mom really respect
Hmm.
your autistic
Hmm.
preferences. So that's so important. Yeah.
It's not really a matter of respect of autistic parents. It's more because she just let me be me. She
Right.
literally didn't let me be
Right.
me. But like, and for the longest time, I rejected Spanish because I was too scared to speak it. I'd be criticized. People would not ask me, like, my story. They would not ask me my background, the judgment, and on top of that, getting some of the stereotypical Mexican jokes from my white peers. I'm like it felt like I
Yeah.
was in high school. It felt like I was in a lose-lose battle. Either I get made fun of by the other, or get made fun of by the
Yeah.
other. And this was for the longest time. I rejected my culture. I'm like, you know what? Just leave me alone. I want to be me.
So what
Um,
changed, Ralphie? So what was the turning point when you decided I'm just gonna embrace, learn my like the good and the challenges,
mhm,
being one of
yeah.
the people in my own culture. So what changed?
Okay, so in 2000, so in 2020, in 2020 there was this. So I for a little bit I was prejudiced towards my own people, especially as an autistic person, because like I was too scared, yada yada. So in 2020 I worked at a grocery store named ShopRite, and there was this older woman. She only spoke Spanish, and she didn't speak English at all. So I had to give my best. I'm like, and I'm like, "Do hablas español?" And then yes, we talked for like a good 20 minutes because it was like dead. It was dead in the store, and she changed me, and she reminded me of my grandma.
Oh,
Um, But one of the things, so even though my mom spoke English before having me, she didn't walk around. She didn't walk around like she's this matcha, sexy, I'm amazing, bad A kind of woman. She taught me compassion and sympathy and empathy, or at least reminded me of that. At least, um, there is a time where you do have to eventually learn the multiculturalisms, the adaptions, all that. But she taught me. She reminded me compassion. Um, so it was a harsh conversation because I was trying too much to be prejudiced. I was pushing them away. I would sometimes a Spanish Latino would ask me, "Do I speak Spanish?" while I work, and I'm like, "No, I don't." And it's because number one, I was still internally hurting, but also because I was scared to speak there to get criticized again in public. So it was a little bit of self hate. My mom gave me that little reminder of my roots, that I am a brown man, that I should be proud of my skin color, um, and that I can embrace both the multiculturalism. Okay, and then fast forward to that. That was basically one of the turning points. She turned me over. Okay, turned me over, and then I met a guy who's all the way from Arizona who I had a little bit who was my very first crush. He's the reason I came out, and he's like, "You got beautiful skin, dude." And he's a gay man too. He's gay, autistic, and a trucker, and that made me feel good too because I always felt like I had to be something else. And when I was working at the grocery store, another gay man, he was 55, and I asked him like, what how was your life growing up? And he was telling me that he went to this church which was predominantly Hispanic, Latino. And he said this to me, and I quote, "You Spanish people are a lot more nicer than most of the Americans." He said that to me. And I guess now, as I got older, I wanted to just tap more into my Spanish. And then me and my grandma we had our first Christmas in 2021 after 19 years. Actually, no, 2022 after 19 years. 19 years. And then just 2 years ago, me and my aunt had our first Christmas after 22 years, along with her husband, my deal. So it was all this family. But another thing too that happened was in 2020. I sent money. My father needed help sending money to Mexico, but he he also asked me for my help while he was in Mexico too. And I said, yeah, of course. And fast forward, it was like a whole come full circle because to see my sister and my brother say to me in Spanish, "Gracias para esto, gracias para ayuda, gracias para comida, gracias para leche." and that maybe reminded me of the kind of sacrifice that my father made for me, and me too. So basically, it was family. Basically, it was family. It was the reminder of my
Yeah.
roots, the reminder of my ancestors, and also realizing how much Spanish culture is so appreciated, whether it's Puerto Rican or Mexican or all the others. Like, obviously Bad Bunny just happened with the Super Bowl, but on top of that, you got Sell the Product, you got people going to celebrating Cinco de Mayo, even though it's the Independence Day of Mexico, it's in September. And reminding, and people always say too, Mexicans are so hardworking, but I'm like, Americans are hardworking too. I guess I was reminded of the way I grew up, and I think I can still tap into that. And I want to be part of
Yeah.
that revelation.
Well, in your culture, families are important. You have a very close-knit community, I think. So that's really nice how it all like came together for you.
Hmm.
So let's talk about work. So you shared openly that you started working very, very early at the age of 11 years old
11.
because of your father's influence. Talk to us about watching your dad working long hours, and how did that influence your own work ethics?
Yes,
Uh,
yeah, of
yeah.
course. So I can say the positives and the negatives. So I love my father. I have respect for him. We didn't always get along. We did fight a lot. He did say that my autism, he was in denial of my autism. If I'm gonna be honest with you, like again, I'm saying the full real thing. But now he's a changed man. I don't. He still has a hard time opening up, especially because he's in Mexico. But he's not the same man he was. Um, so I started working at 11, seeing him, on the let's go, kicking, cooking, dishwashing. Sometimes it would be just him and one other guy in the kitchen for a full 6, 7, 8 hours. And there was a sports bar in a rich neighborhood, okay, predominantly rich neighborhood. Um, that caught on me because I said, like, and even now as a 20-year-old man, it's still on me, but I'm trying to kind of slow it down, dimmer it down. The thing is, he worked hard. He did a lot, but he wasn't. Um, how do I say it nicely? How do I say it nicely? He was there, but he wasn't there. If I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm trying to say that very respectfully because I know this is going to be on the internet, and I wanted to be truthful. Um, Now, as a 28-year-old man, I noticed that some of the charismatics or the characteristics that he did as a worker is now on me. Because I'm like, let's go, let's go. Everyone says to me, you don't have to kill yourself this, kill yourself that. You don't have to push yourself like this. As an autistic person, we have routine. Whether we like it or not, we need a routine. We're on a routine and we don't even know it sometimes. My routine is culture. I'm like, let's go. But I'm like, we got to do this. Like, let's go. Like, always got to be Speedy Gonzalez. That was my routine. But the problem is that the side effect when we see someone and that becomes our routine, we do the whole compare game, the compare game. I compare a lot to myself to my father, but then I have to remember too that I'm not my father, that I'm me. I used to think that I was pretty. That's what a bad A man would do. Like working all those hours by yourself and still being able to get it done. But now as a 20-year-old man working at Target, especially with like the very low job labor, I'm like, no, this is not bad A. This sucks. This is awful because I didn't see the bigger picture of like the burnouts that my dad would do. I didn't see the big picture of the overstimulation. I'd be a liar if I said that I didn't cry or I didn't like get overwhelmed at work or I've had a meltdown at work when I was a kid. Even now as an adult, like I've broken down crying before. Very rarely does that happen, especially because I do yoga. Um, but also there was a lot of push. There was a lot of push, a lot of like a little more, not force. I would say a little bit more of
Higher
a
expectations.
higher expectation. Yes, let's go with that. Physically and mentally and emotionally. Um, I could never. Unfortunately, I could never talk to my father about my feelings. Unfortunately. And again, being truthful, it's again, this was when I was a kid. This is 12, 13, 14 years old. Um, but I was basically like, if there was a problem, they would say, figure it out. My dad did help me though. Like when I was
Mm.
like very behind, he would help me out. So thankfully, but the problem is that I don't think people take the problem, at least in my culture, or at least for what it was at the time. And I'm not saying that this is all Mexicans. I'm not saying that this is all people. But my experience, my life, accommodations were not a thing. Um, you know, Sensory overload, not a, you fight through it. Overstimulation, you fight through it. So now, years of that, I'm trying to, making sure that it's okay to take breaks. It's okay to calm down. It's okay to need to step away. I the This is kind of the concept of the whole be a man about it thing, and I hate that. It's worse in in other cultures, because as a man, we're taught to provide, to not talk about our feelings, be a man about it, push through. But that is very cancerous to us men, especially to neurodivergents, because as autistic people,
Right.
neurodivergents, we feel harder. We
Yeah.
feel harder, and also we feel lost, and also we feel like we're spiraling. So
Yeah.
as much as I love my culture, there's those things, little aspects I don't like, because like my father, he wasn't taught self-care. He didn't have proper guidance. Yeah, he had good bosses, money, but in the end, it didn't really do us good.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Can you